Well, hi there, ladies and gentlemen. Hi there, out there in internet land. This is your good friend, Charlie Hunter. This is Charlie Hunter in Bellows Falls, Vermont, where my office is kind of in chaos because I've been moving things around because the wood stove of my childhood has been rebuilt and has been placed back in my office, which is a wonderful thing. But I did want to move one file cabinet when I had clear access across the room. So behind me, it's a little bit messy, but we're going to get it cleaned up someday. You know how it is during the pandemic, all that stuff you were going to do. Getting right on it. Anyway, today I thought we'd do a quick tour through kind of a little series of paintings that I did. Because I'd kind of forgotten about this series, and I just found the final one. So Dan, and ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Betty Sue, my beloved, is unable to be pulling the strings behind the scenes today because she is at a rehearsal. You know, her real job is singer-songwriter down in Austin, Texas, and they're taping an Austin City Limits this weekend or so. And so she's at rehearsal. She's background singer for this segment of Austin City Limits. So she's at rehearsal. And so kindly, Dan Richardson, who is the sound person on our Roots on the Rails music trains, which you all should check out, www.rootsontherails.com. Dan Richardson is behind the scenes, pulling the strings. So in case you hear me saying, Dan, next slide, it's not a new pet name for my beloved. It is Dan's name for Dan. All right, Dan, could we have the first slide, please? Now this, ladies and gentlemen, is the kind of scene that makes my heart beat fast. This is taken from Amtrak's Texas Eagle in fall of 2018, I believe it was. Betty Sue and I took the Lakeshore Limited, aka the Lake for Shore Limited, from Springfield, Mass to Chicago, and then the Texas Eagle from Chicago down to Austin, Texas. And the final afternoon on the train going through Texas, the skies were scudding dark clouds. The land was monochromatic and zipping by. And I just thought the color harmonies were so beautiful. This is, I don't know what this says about me, that this is the color harmonies that I love, as opposed to the kind of ecstatic stuff we're about to get into. But anyway, on that same trip, I took a photograph that was the basis for several paintings. But in our mental Rolodex, of course, we've always got great art kind of just, we're not looking directly at it, but it's in our minds. Next slide, please, Dan. And so in my mind was the Turner, the very famous Turner, Rain, Steam, and Speed from 1844. Now, that scene outside the train window obviously is somewhat different in that it's not of the train, whereas Turner's nominally, that is the subject matter. But remember, there is a diagonal from the bottom right heading toward kind of the center, lower center horizon line. Both that photograph and that Turner, this Turner, have that basic graphic element. Dan, next slide, please. So the first play that I did on this image, and you're going to see the source photo. You saw the kind of the color harmonies first, my jumping off place of the color harmonies. You're going to see the source photo that all of my other paintings come from in just a moment. But this was the one, can you go back to the Turner, Dan? The sky in the Turner and the sky in my little 8x10, back to the 8x10. That I was thinking of the Turner when I was working on this. Now this, I did a whole series of 8x10s because I got a bunch of panels made by Speedball. They're called Mona Lisa panels. And I first became acquainted with them because at my workshops, people sometimes show up with those because they don't want to spend the money for ampersand art boards, which I don't actually use that much either. But ampersand art boards are beautiful, multi-coated, gesso, buffed, they're absorbent, and they're just a wonderful surface. Mona Lisa panels by Speedball are like melamine. They're like a non-absorbent, almost like a linoleum surface. And they're terrible for the plein air work when I'm teaching a workshop. However, they are an interesting surface. So I was experimenting a lot with taking a brayer, that is a rubber roller, a printmaker's roller, and running paint across that and running that across the surface and then wiping things away. And that was what I was fooling around with these Mona Lisa panels. So the yellowish color, just to get you oriented to how this is all going to work, the yellowish color down near, there's the darkest dark, the lower, the lower picture plane. Right above that is this kind of yellowy light. That is the surface, the Mona Lisa panel with some of my usual mark. That is basically, if we're talking cobras, cobra water mixable oils, it would be either burnt sienna or transparent red oxide, and olive green, or if we're talking about a traditional conventional oils, it would be viridian and burnt sienna, or viridian and transparent oxide red. Anyway, so that's wiped away, and it makes this kind of luminous yellowish glow. Then the rolled out paint is on top of that. I've probably sprayed it with a spray bottle. That's the next layer, which would be that kind of rusty brown. And that would be burnt sienna with a little bit of, or quite a bit of the green, whether it's the viridian or the olive green. And then on top of that is our multiple layers of unbleached titanium and a medium, I don't know what, probably with some of the Cobra painting paste, which is paint without the pigment in it, and then probably either painting medium or artisan safflower oil, but a very thin, basically, so it's a semi-opaque glaze on top of these various layers. The bottom part, the darkest darks, a lot of that is applied with the squeegee as additive tool as opposed to reductive tool. And then just trying to make marks that are suggestive of reality as opposed to reality itself. Next slide, please, Dan. So this is the source photograph from which I was working. The color harmonies on this aren't as interesting to me as that first slide I showed, but the composition, I love the rails going away, like that Turner from the lower right to the center. And I love the bridge going in opposition. I do not remember where this is. It's just somewhere on the Texas Eagle, some town in Illinois or somewhere, or Missouri. But what I really liked about it is squint down, ladies and gentlemen. If you squint down, the dark darks of the landmass and the bridge, and then the lattice work of the pilings of the bridge, the piers of the bridge. The way it breaks up space, I really love. Next slide, please, Dan. So this is called Blue Streak, Passing Trains That Have No Name, 18 by 36. This was in a show that I did down at William Basic Fine Art in Northampton, Mass, and I'm fortunate enough that it sold, and the cats thank you. The cats are prevented from starving for one more day. Here's the food. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this. a whole sleeve of the good food, thanks to the sale of Blue Streak passing trains that have no name. Now, the title, of course, is from Steve Goodman's immortal song, The City of New Orleans. And you'll see the blue streak was added completely imaginarily by me. Go back again, Dan, to the previous slide. There's no blue train going past there. It's just empty tracks. Back ahead, yes. But I wanted the sense of movement, of you know how photography of trains very often just has them be this blur. So I wanted that mark of movement, but I didn't want to literally depict a train. And what I'm trying to do is almost not depict anything here. You know, I'm not keep making the ground very clear. I'm not making the bridge very rendered. And the thing to pay attention to is that you'll see me arguing with myself, trying different solutions, is how I get any kind of vertical to stitch the ground and the sky together. Pay particular attention over on the right, because sometimes I put trees there and sometimes I put buildings there and sometimes I can't make up my mind. In this one, I just went for kind of a hazy dark. And this is, again, a lot of rollers, a lot of palette knife. The sky, I ended up, the cold white hazy part in the center is spray paint. I was having a lot of fun with white enamel spray paint last fall until the the nozzle clogged. And then I did not get to have much more fun with it. Next slide, Dan. And so this is, people are asking me, why am I calling them the Magritte series as opposed to the Turner series? Because, ladies and gentlemen, just as I had that steam, steel, and speed painting in my head, I also have always loved this Magritte painting. He did a whole series of these. There are maybe a half dozen or a dozen called The Empire of Light. And he did them over about a 20-year period, I believe, where people say it is, or maybe Magritte said that it is, you know, surrealism because it's a night scene with the daytime sky. Well, you know as well as I do, ladies and gentlemen, that you have seen this phenomenon of a bright, bright sky, even as the land is plunged into darkness. And next slide, Dan. Jackson Browne saw it too, for his cover of Late for the Sky, which was a classic 1970s album. This was not a doctored photograph. I mean, it may be manipulated in the studio somewhat, but it's not two images overlaid. It is a scene. It's really near Jackson Browne's boyhood home, and was photographed by the great LA photographer Bob Seldemam. And it's very much an homage to Magritte. In fact, I think Jackson Browne credits Magritte on the back cover. I think he says, you know, photographed by Bob Seldemam, hope it's all reet with Magritte. But anyway, that phenomenon of a sky suffused with light, with this dark, with the dark landmass, I think is really compelling. It moves me. Next slide, please, Dan. So this was the next one I tried with with the Magritte idea in my head. Same archetype, right? Same armature. The bridge, the railroad track, and the sky. Now, here I am trying to stitch the land into the sky by putting in utility lines, utility poles. There's one on the left, there's a couple on the right, and kind of just vague I went with foliage. I went with foliage, ladies and gentlemen. And I think a very important part of this one is the light on the rail, which is the bottom right, bottom third of the painting, going from about the middle over to the edge. It's broken up because in reality, you would see light hitting that rail, but there would tend to be debris or, shrubs or just stuff in the way. So you don't want to have it be just a strong line, but you want to have it be definite, but broken up a bit. I was pretty happy with this one. And I get the thing that's nice about these is that they seem to have struck a chord with people in that virtually all of them have sold. Now, once again, I want to say just the technical thing, the bright light behind the bridge, that is the substrate color. That is the color of that Speedball panel. Because this again is all of these, except for the blue streak passing trains that have no name. That blue streak was done on linen, but all these others are on these kind of melamine Speedball panels. Next slide, Dan. Here's another variant. I was happy enough with the armature that I did not, what I'm playing with is light and sky and how you can try to skate between information and the suggestion of information, like what Doug Fryer calls the suggested landscape. Again, I'm using utility poles. For some reason, I didn't want any crossbars on these. Don't know what happened. Because the other one had crossbars on the utility lines. And again, I'm playing with the brightest bright is the substrate color, and everything else is just kind of rubbed glazes in the sky. And the way a glaze works is you let one layer dry thoroughly before you start messing with the next layer. You all know Maxfield Parrish, right? If you don't know Maxfield Parrish, look him up. I mean, it's over the top. It's treacle, but it's the light he gets is amazing. And he would work, he was working in the 20s or so, and he would wait 6 months before putting another glazing layer, waiting for the previous layer to fully dry. But the reason glazes work is the light comes through, hits the substrate, and bounces back. So these transparent colors, you get this beautiful luminosity from them. Next slide, please. Also in my mind, when I play around with this stuff, is a childhood hero of mine, Leslie Ragan, who did posters for the New York Central Railroad and the Budd Company. The Budd Company made the Dome cars. They made the Amfleet cars that still are running today, and then they went out of business. But Leslie Ragan did advertising art for them. And as a kid, when I was sick, my mom would set me up in my room with my chicken soup and a pile of National Geographics. And she thought I was learning about Fiji, and all my little friends thought I was looking at the naked breasts of the Fijian women, but I was not. I was looking at the advertising. Specifically, I was looking for Leslie Ragan illustrations. Look at how he masked. Look at how he masked the clouds. It's just, I mean, yeah, it's not realistic. It's not realistic. It's like realism on datura or on some drug that would make your eyes go like this, but look at the colors. Look at the colors. Just love his stuff. Next slide. And so that was in my mind when I did this Magritte. Trying to go for, what I was trying to do in my mind was marry Leslie Ragan and Turner. And of course, so I call it Magritte. It's just so I keep it clear in my head that it's part of that series. But once again, I'm using the substrate down at the horizon, and then, yeah, it shows through, but that's how it's luminous. I'm not counting on white paint to provide that luminosity. There is white paint, again, I think there's spray paint at the very top, and that's the very top layer, some of that white enamel. But the luminosity really is the layers, the thin layers of paint on top of the white, smooth, super slick Mona Lisa panel. And that allows, when you then spray some white paint on top of that, that gives, the white has a totally different texture and a totally different luminosity, because it's the application of white paint as opposed to white of the substrate and going through the layer, the light going through the layers of paint. Now this one I think has a particularly unsuccessful stitching of the ground to the sky. These structures over on the lower right, they don't quite work yet. So I may be playing with this one a little bit more. I just found it. It was behind another painting. I was like, oh damn, yeah, I got those. So anyway, if you in your peregrinations have a simple armature that really seems, that resonates in you, that you feel like you're trying to tell the story of something, not you're trying to make a picture of a thing, but trying to tell, how does something make you feel? I really urge you, rather than spending a lot of time on doing an all new composition each time. Yeah, run through them, Dan. Slowly run through them all. Rather than trying to reinvent the wheel each painting, just do a series using these real simple elements and see what you learn. I don't know if I'll be doing more of these. I am going to try to finish that that Magritte 5 that I showed you. And I'll let you know how it turns out. So anyway, there we go. I like that one a lot. Like that one. Love that. And this one stopped there, Dan. We'll just leave it there. That one, as you see, those buildings on the right, they just sit there. They just sit there. It needs something going up. I'll let you know when I figure it out. I'll probably post it on my Instagram. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Dan, can you make me fill up the whole screen again? Because it's all about me. It's all about me. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Do visit www.hunter-studio.com for all of my instructional video and the Reasonably Fine Art t-shirts and the brush soap and the hats, everything. And yeah, everything. It's good to see you all. Take good care. We'll see you next week. Stay healthy. Bye-bye.